What's up guys, Zach with Half Pace Outdoors. So we are sleeping in my backyard tonight. Now why are we sleeping in the backyard tonight? Well, we are going to be testing some gear to its absolute extreme limits tonight. And if you're gonna do things like this, I think you should do it somewhere where you can get yourself out of a situation. So tonight we're going to be testing my River Country Products Tipi tent freezing. It's been 22 degrees today here in Northeast Ohio. Tonight we're looking at a low of 15 degrees. So I want to see how my Tipi tent holds up in the winter time. We are also going to be putting my Zenbivy to its absolute most extreme test and taking this thing below its temperature rating. This is supposed to be a 23 degree Zenbivy Light bed sleep system. Our low tonight is like 15 to 18 degrees. My Campy Gear heater and stove to the test. In case we do end up getting really cold tonight, we'll be able to light this thing up and stay warm in the tent instead of having to go in the house and wake the wife up because the dogs start barking like mad. This isn't going to be a full-blown camping video. I'm going to eat dinner in the house with my family and then come out here when it's bedtime and we'll see how the night goes. It's going to be kind of a wind test too because we've got 10 to 20 mile an hour winds blowing today. I'm going to put an emergency blanket on the ground first, one of the heavy-duty ones. Kind of like a moisture barrier, but obvious insulation purposes. So, all the guy lines are tied out. This thing is going to be staked down as well as it can be. I'm going to take the edges of that emergency blanket and fold them up underneath. And then, yeah, we'll start getting my bed set up. That'd be a fair test for this tent because this tent, I'm pretty sure, is only rated to be 3 seasons. But we gonna find out. This is the Zenbivy insulated sleep pad. The Zenbivy Light mattress. Okay, so let's get our bottom sheet on first. These Zenbivies can be used like they're modular, so you can set it up like a rectangular sleeping bag or you can set it up like a mummy bag. I usually use it like a rectangular bag, so tonight we're going to set it up like the mummy bag and see how well she works out. Alright, that is our setup tonight. I gotta go in and do the dad thing for a little while, so I'll see you guys when we come out here for the night. It's 8:30. So, it's 8:30. We are out here for the night now. I guess our first test is to see how well the little heater works, since it's only 8:30, right? Alright, we're gonna go ahead and start with the smaller canister that's in here. And then, once that one's empty, we'll switch up to the other larger canister that I have. The fuel tank is cold. This is actually working out really well so far. It's starting to heat up in here enough that I'm about to take my coat off. Now, some considerations, because I am using a stove that works off of burning a fuel canister, so you have some inherent dangers that come with that. One, I'm in a tent. That's generally a no as it starts. But I have a 1-inch gap around the front of my tent where there's some air coming in that way. I unzipped the zipper on the back vent panel about 3 inches so that I've got some airflow coming from the back. And then this top vent, when I was setting the temp up earlier, I ran the guy line out that holds that top vent all the way open, so that I've got adequate airflow in here to allow for what I'm trying to do. Shouldn't necessarily use heat sources like this in a tent, but people do it all the time anyways. And we're testing gear, so yeah. Really kind of excited to see how well this Zenbivy does tonight, because it's a 23-degree bag and I've not been able to try it below 60 degrees yet. Okay, well, it's not exactly empty, but I think that this one is so cold that it's just not wanting to power the stove efficiently enough, because it's only like halfway empty. Got a big MSR tank. I will show it to you guys in the morning. I already hooked it up. That's entirely too much because I can feel it heating the tent up. So I'm going to leave this fairly low. Because even that, I can feel heat just, yeah. And I don't think the camera is showing it very well, but the top of this up here is glowing. I do still have my Whoopee hoodie on. I've got my Real Tree cotton thermals for sleeping in tonight. I'm trying to test this gear as raw as possible so that I know if it's going to fail or not, or what its limitations are going to be. You know, test your gear close to home. You don't have to be out in the middle of the wilderness to test your gear. It's better to test it at home or in a close to home environment where if something fails, you know you can get back to the house and you don't have to be in a survival situation that night. My house is 30 feet away from us. The same conditions that are in your backyard are the same conditions that are out in the wilderness. The only difference is out in the wilderness you've got that psychological game going on. Well, most people do anyways. I'm kind of more at home in the woods than I am at home most of the time. Test your gear close to home. Know if it's going to fail, know what its limitations are before you go carrying it off into the woods and you end up in a survival situation. But it is 9 o'clock. It is 9:10 when I hooked that MSR canister up. So we'll see how long it burns for. Unless I end up going to bed first. Because if I go to bed before the canister is up, I'm going to shut the stove off. If you get cold at night, you'll wake up. Yeah, and that way we can see how long we last through the night without the heat. And if the Zenbivy can manage this kind of cold. I'm going to sleep with my Whoopee hoodie on because I would anyways. I always sleep with a hoodie on if I'm winter camping. Air up, you know how it goes. Alright, so let's hang out for a little bit now that I got the heater off. And I'm all bundled up inside of here. And see how long it takes for this thing to build up some body warmth. Because, I'll tell you guys, I'm pretty cold right now. Especially with that heater off. Although I really love this sleep system. This thing is so comfortable. Concern is like my knees and my feet, because those are what get cold on me first. Alright, I had to move myself around a little bit because I was like right up against the edge, and I don't want to be touching the edge of my tent at all because I get ice on my face and that's no fun. I was putting my hands up underneath like where the foot box is at. And my feet are retaining heat, so that is awesome. And yeah, I'm actually fairly warm in here. Okay, I am going to cozy up, try to get some sleep. It's the first time I've been able to like sleep outside in a while, so I'll be honest, and I'm a little bit high strung at the moment. I could probably stay up for another hour and a half and read. But I do need to try to get some sleep. We are out here to test some gear, and that's what I'm going to try to do. Spinal cord injury pro tip. If you guys have to use catheters, keep the catheter you're going to use later in the night and in the morning inside of your sleeping bag. Alright, I will see you guys if I get cold or in the morning. Good night. Well, good morning. It is 5 a.m. So we had a really successful night. I actually stayed really warm. So warm that I had to take my socks off because my feet were swelling up. This thing is still over halfway full. This is the big MSR can. It got down to like 15 degrees. That's awesome. It's plenty warm enough. And I mean, if I had to, I could easily stuff my Whoopee into this thing to add a couple more degrees to it if I needed to. Be there for when the kid comes downstairs and when the baby starts crying. Alright guys. The stove itself actually performed flawlessly. I have no complaints about the stove. I ended up leaving it on low from about 1 a.m. on. I woke up and there was just a sheet of ice on the inside of the tent. So I ended up leaving it on low. Like, you could probably burn 2 or 3 emergency candles and get the same amount of heat output that I was getting. I know that sound is not going to portray weight, and I hope that you guys will be able to hear this. This tank is, when I started, both of these were full, brand new, had not been used for anything before. This tank is about a quarter of the way full yet. So we used about 3/4 of the fuel in this tank. And I used about half of the fuel in this one. So here's what was happening. I was losing power out of the stove because the tanks were getting cold. Now that is not a fault of the stove, that is fault of fuel. So keep that in mind, guys. It got down to between 15 and 18 degrees, and that's without the wind chill. We had 10 to 20 mile an hour winds all night long. Propane isobutane canisters don't do very well in the cold for long periods of time. So keep that in mind if you guys try to use something like this when it's this type of cold out. Not recommend carrying that around backpacking or hiking. If you're camping out of your car or like out in the backyard or out of a vehicle, then it's going to be a good solid option, but it's too heavy to carry around like hiking and backpacking. Country Products Tipi tent is actually still, I think they call it Trekker 1. I actually still have it set up out in the yard because we have 20 to 30 mile an hour winds today, and it rained real hard last night, so I'm putting it through a bit more of a torture test. However, last night in the freezing conditions that we dealt with, it performed okay. It's a single wall tent. It is not meant to be used in 4 seasons in the winter. The Trekker TPs, I got crying baby. Oh, decided to put a hoodie on. And now that the kid is back asleep. Okay, so the tent performed as well as a 3-season tent should perform in the wintertime. As I said, it's a single wall tent, so you can't really expect that much, and those are known for collecting condensation on the inside. So I ended up with a nice layer of ice on the inside of the tent, but only about like maybe the bottom 1.5 feet up the wall. So it wasn't too bad. The Zenbivy did amazing. It's rated to 23 degrees, and like I said, it was 15 to 18 degrees last night. I had to take my Wooby hoodie off, and I had to take my wool socks off because my feet were getting hot. So yeah, I was really shocked to see it go down as cold as it did, which kind of makes me want to torture it a little bit more and see what its real threshold for me is. Now, that temperature rating is also subject to change because different people sleep at different temperatures, so keep that in mind too. Alright guys, I'm Zach with Half Pace Outdoors. I will see you on the next one, and remember, find your way.